Hello, and welcome to the Well-Read Poem. The following 6 readings are an encore performance of previously recorded episodes of the Well-Read Poem for your enjoyment. Thank you very much for listening.
Reading is interpretation. A poem well read is a poem well understood. In this podcast, brought to you by the Literary Life Podcast, poet Thomas Banks will help you increase your love and understanding of poetry. Each short season of weekly episodes will be connected by a particular theme or focus, and in addition to modeling good reading, Mr. Banks will introduce the poet and provide some light explication and analysis, with an emphasis on both form and meaning. Poetry is not a silent endeavor. It's meant to be heard, and more importantly, it's meant to be recited out loud. Join us now as poet Thomas Banks presents the Well-Read Poem.
Hello, and welcome to the Advent and Christmas season of the Well-Read Poem. As is appropriate in the last months of the year, I'm going to be reading you a series of poems that have to do in some way with the coming of Christ and the Nativity of our Lord. And to begin this season, I've chosen a poem by a very well-known poet. I have referred to him in previous seasons. Probably all of you know of, or maybe have read a bit of William Butler Yeats. This is a poem he wrote in 1914. The title is The Magi. I selected this poem because it's not, I guess you could say it's not a stereotypical Advent poem. This is a poem that raises perhaps questions that it does not answer. It is not a poem that is expressly pious even, and it's a little bit disturbing, especially the final line, as we'll see. So I'm going to read this poem to you. Couple words of introduction first. The poem is written in a longish line form called the Alexandrine. The Alexandrine will, in English, consist of 6 iambic feet, ba-bum, 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 ba-bum. And that is, it creates in the ear of an English speaker an effect of prolonging, because it's a foot longer than what's kind of the standard English line, the iambic pentameter, which is sort of the norm of most English language poetry. So the Alexandrine is not a common line type in English verse. It's very common in French, though. If you read any French poetry at all, the Alexandrine will assault you from every direction. And I don't know exactly why it is standard in French and comparatively rare in English. The only 2 reasons I can give, number one, the Alexander Romance, which was a French medieval poem about Alexander the Great, hence the name Alexandrine, was written in this meter and was a great success in the courts and the troubadour era of French song and verse. Another reason, and this one is speculative on my part, but French tends to be spoken faster than English. And if you just listen to a person reading a poem written in this language in French, it might not have the same effect of delay, of kind of languorousness that the line creates in English. So it's kind of a slow loping, taking its time getting there, sort of like an aged camel crossing a desert. That comparison just came to me. I'm not even sure if it really works, but anyway, let me give you a reading now. So, The Magi by William Butler Yeats. Now, as at all times, I can see in the mind's eye In their stiff painted clothes, the pale, unsatisfied ones appear and disappear in the blue depths of the sky, with all their ancient faces like rain-beaten stones, and all their helms of silver hovering side by side, and all their eyes still fixed, hoping to find once more, being by Calvary's turbulence unsatisfied, the uncontrollable mystery on the bestial floor. The poem builds up. It's not a long poem. It's all of 8 lines long. Rhyme scheme fairly typical: A, B, A, B, I, ones, sky, stones, side, more, fide, floor. Builds up to those last 2 lines, which are kind of provoke a, I don't know, maybe sort of quizzically puzzled eyebrow in the reader, because the Magi here, depicted in their old age, their ancient faces like rain-beaten stones, they are left somehow unsatisfied by Calvary. That is, by Christ's atoning sacrifice. And you ask why. I mean, they weren't even there. I mean, in the gospel accounts, the Magi come in at Epiphany. They make the presentation of gifts, sacrificial gifts, kingly gifts, gifts for embalming, hence the myrrh. And then they leave as mysteriously as they came. But here they're given prophetic powers or something like that, and they are somehow left forlorn, unsatisfied with what they see at Calvary, and they long to recover, final line, the uncontrollable mystery on the bestial floor. Now, that line, I have to say, I really like. That's Yeats is full of great single lines that people sometimes quote like rampantly out of context. Politicians, the center does not hold, mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The kind of lines you're used to hearing in hackneyed political speeches, on the rare occasions when politicians season their speeches with any bit of poetic quotation. But this line, the uncontrollable mystery on the bestial floor, I think is a healthy corrective to the sometimes kind of cutesy, sometimes kind of I don't know, sometimes kind of sugary crèche scenes where Christ as a sort of doll-eyed infant is the cutest infant who ever lived, probably a bit more blue-eyed than he was in real life, just speculating. But here, the uncontrollable mystery on the bestial floor makes the Lion of Judah sound a little bit dangerous even in his cub form. And I think that's something that it does us well to be reminded of. So let me read this poem one more time. This poem, by the way, written in 1914, is sort of typical of Yeats' mid to late period. Yeats would have been just over 50 years old when he wrote this. And you notice as Yeats grows older as a poet, a lot of people think that the later Yeats is actually inferior to the early Yeats. I am not necessarily one of these. And then there are, of course, other people who think that Yeats doesn't really come into his own until about World War I, about the time this poem is written. I won't pretend to decide to adjudicate that matter, but as he gets older, he grows more fond of visual rhymes, rhymes like ones and stones, where on the page the rhyme works, but it doesn't play on the ear as a rhyme, perhaps. And he also, his lines get a little bit looser. He'll add an extra syllable here or there, so it doesn't strictly meet the beat of the metronome. In any case, this poem is typical of those kind of effects. So one more time, The Magi by William Butler Yeats. Now, as at all times, I can see in the mind's eye, in their stiff painted clothes, the pale, unsatisfied ones appear and disappear in the blue depths of the sky, with all their ancient faces like rain-beaten stones, and all their helms of silver hovering side by side, and all their eyes still fixed, hoping to find once more, being by Calvary's turbulence unsatisfied, the uncontrollable mystery on the bestial floor. Happy Advent. Thank you for listening. This has been the Well-Read Poem.
This has been The Well-Read Poem with poet Thomas Banks, brought to you by the Literary Life podcast. For show notes and the text of the poem, visit theliterary.life. To find out more about Thomas Banks and the poetry resources he offers, go to houseofhumaneletters.com. This podcast is patron-supported. Visit patreon.com/theliterarylife to find out how you can support this podcast and get additional bonus content, including monthly live poetry explications. If you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review. Thank you for listening.